Hello, hello, test. Okay.
Test.
Testing 1, 2. Testing 1, 2, 3.
Test. Okay.
Testing 1, 2.
I got you now.
What
Okay.
happens if you move it over, though?
Do you have Nathan?
Blah, blah, blah.
Test.
I got you.
Still working.
All right. Standing right here, is this okay?
1, 2, 3, go.
All right, we're going to start in the beginning here. We're talking about how we name and set up accounts. Primarily, these are Google accounts, but we wanted to give you some idea of the order that that's good to set up your accounts. You should already have accounts set up in Gmail, Twitter, and Facebook, so that'll help. But there are some things when you get to an incident or start on a project that ought to be done immediately. Things like deciding on names, checking out what's already in use in the community that you're in, setting up accounts, naming protocols, and things like that. So what I would suggest is decide on names fairly quickly. And by that I mean the name of your incident may not be particularly good for social media sites. If the name of your incident is Lazy Diamond Mountain Ranch Fire, that's going to take up way too much room in your Twitter and things like that. So you might want to call it Lazy M or Lazy Ranch or Diamond Ranch or something shorter so that you don't take up quite so much room. And you probably ought to work with your team on that because your IC may have something to say about that. So work on the name that you want to use because that's the name that you're going to have throughout the duration of the incident. Also remember that the public may have already named the fire something. They may be calling it something local. So you might want to consider calling it what the local people call it since these pages are for them. So you'll want to talk to your IC and other people about what that name ought to be. You want to look for hashtags. Hashtags are some of the first things that are established by the public when an incident happens. So, and you might even need two. So take a look around, do some general searches before you look for hashtags. Look for, say, the forest name or the town that you're in or the fire name or the agency that you're there working for and see if you find a commonly used hashtag somewhere on there. And then think about either using the same hashtag everyone's already using, or if it doesn't seem to be quite right, you can establish another one. Sometimes it's a good idea to have two, and we'll talk more about hashtags when we talk about Twitter, but sometimes there are, for instance, you might have the forest, maybe it's the Okanagan-Wenatchee Forest, so you say Oka-Wen is their hashtag, and you always put Oka-Wen in, but you also put the incident name and that hashtag. Look also for Facebook pages that are set up. That are in the community, and again, we'll talk more later about the specifics about handling Facebook accounts, as well as handling accounts that you find elsewhere in the community. But look around, know the situation you're coming into. Are these people using Facebook a lot, or is Facebook not much in use at all, and hardly anyone has one? Because the tools you choose depend on what the audience or the community needs from you and what they're used to using. I do recommend building incident-specific accounts, and here's why. Because if you're in a very, very large area, like perhaps the Okanagan-Wenatchee National Forest, it runs from Canada all the way down to Washington, and maybe they've got 100 fires going. Well, those fires are spread all over this large forest, and if the person way up by Canada, say in the Methow Valley, has a fire going on, and the mayor up there wants to keep track just of his fire, if he's to follow the Okanagan-Wenatchee Twitter page, he's going to get everything on every fire happening on the entire forest, and that's not what he wants. That's a lot of traffic. So we suggest you start an incident-specific page so he can then follow that page that just deals with things about the fire in his community. The same with Facebook. We do start incident-specific Facebook pages, blogs, and Twitter accounts are our primary, sort of the backbone of the social media plan we put together. I would advise if you're building your own account, a personal account, for instance, a personal Twitter account, use your own name. It's really hard for people to find you if you call yourself Captain Marvel 3. Nobody knows. You have to tell everyone your handle in order for them to find you. So use your name if you're building your personal account, or use the name, obviously, if you're on an incident of the incident. You're setting up Google accounts first, and the reason you set Google accounts up first is because once you have one Google account, you have all Google accounts. And the most common way to do that is set up Gmail. So once you set up a Gmail account, which should be specific to your incident. You'll have Google Alerts, you'll have Gmail, you'll have Google Hangouts, you'll have Google Drive, Blogger, Maps, YouTube, Google Talk, Google+, all of the Google products, and you only need one password to log in. In addition, they all work together very well, much better than if you than things that are not Google products that don't mesh quite as well. Google's meant to work together. So when you're setting up a Gmail account, and I suggest you do that first because you need a Gmail account in order to set up most of these other accounts. So it makes sense to have Gmail be the account that you set up first. And remember that the Gmail account will show as owner of the page. So when you post on Facebook or you post somewhere else, it'll show the owner posting. So you don't want it to say your name, Bob at Gmail. You want it to say abcfire@gmail.com or abcfireinfo. And that's who will show up when you're answering posts and you're posting on the page. It will show the posts are from the owner of the page. So remember that that name is what will show. And then everyone posting to your account, you can allow other people admin rights under their own Gmail account. The problem is when they post, they'll be posting under their own name. They have to make sure that people either have admin rights and log in under under the Fire name. You can, and we'll go into that later in Facebook how to do that, but you need to make sure you are speaking on the page as the owner of the page so that it doesn't show other names posting just the name of the Fire. So the name is really important. How you set that up is critical. The next thing I suggest you do is set up and access Google Drive. One of the easiest ways to access it is when your Gmail account is open. If you look on the top right, there are 12, the little square box of dots. If you click on the little square box of dots, down will drop a menu with all of the Google products that you have access to with this account. And at the bottom there's a More button, and there are more when you click on that one. But Google Drive is in there. So you click on Drive, and that is the drive associated with your incident-specific Gmail account. And Drive is necessary because Blogger and Facebook and a lot of other places, they don't store things like documents. You have to actually, if you want to post a document like, let's say, Living with Fire, it has to live somewhere. Now, it may already live on your Forest website, but let's say your press release and you want to post a link somewhere, you have to store it somewhere and then create the link. So we use Google Drive as a place to store things. So setting up Drive will let you start workbooks, it'll let you store passwords, it'll let you store other documents you're using on the Fire. You could use it to store all your press releases or other documents, maps, whatever you want to, but it's a great place to store it. And you can only access it through the Gmail, through people who are in there, unless you make the link and the file public. So it'll stay private to you. And the other thing is decide on a naming convention. That is, some rules for everybody about how you're going to name things. Part of the reason is because on some of these, like Blogger, your information, the title of your information will bump over to an archive, and all you see is the title. So if everything is only there by the title, it's hard to remember what the item you want was called. If you put dates and times, like 03, 05, 15, and then 8:15 update, we'll know if that's the day you're looking for. People can usually remember about the day they were looking for something when it happened. So come with some naming conventions. It makes it much easier to sort and find things. A few little things about Facebook. You do have to have a personal profile in order to open a community page. And so a profile is yours. It's what you own about yourself. You don't ever have to do anything with it, but you have to open a personal profile or you cannot open a page. And then pages, there's a lot of kinds. There's news events, there's local events, there's community events, there's government, all kinds of things. And the difference between your page and those is your personal profile, someone has to friend you. You have to agree to be friends with that person to have their stuff appear on your page, on your profile. But on a page, those are things that restaurants and fires use where you don't have to have a Facebook page. People can just go there and get information. So that's the difference between those. And you don't have to worry your personal page, even though you're using it to create the the page, your personal profile, being used to create the page, it won't show up on that page anywhere. There won't be anything on there that ever shows to publicly that you're associated with it. And then I would suggest decide who can post on your timeline. Some people allow the public to post on their timeline. Some people make it so that only they can post on the timeline. I suggest that you be the source of the information and not let everybody in the world post on your timeline, although for some community events, maybe that's appropriate. And then become familiar with your privacy settings. Those are going to get you, you really just, it's not difficult, you just need to read them, and we'll go into it when we start talking about Facebook, but be familiar with the privacy settings and what you really want your page to do, and they change all the time, so don't forget to go back and check them every once in a while. So we're going to move to some more specifics on the Google products and how to use them, because it gives you a common platform for, excuse me, for a lot of tools. And plus, they're available across agency. There are no limitations by agency to those. So Nathan is going to talk about the tools.
Excuse me. So we're going to go ahead and jump into learning specifics about Google products. We're going to go through Gmail, starting with Gmail, and from Gmail we'll jump into Google Drive, and from Google Drive we'll do a quick preview of Google Plus, and we'll touch very briefly on Hangouts and Google Voice. So we're going to start off with going to Gmail. Start off by going to gmail.com. I'm going to open up another window in here. I'll make a note here. Right now I'm using Google Chrome to do all my work in. I prefer to use Google Chrome as opposed to using Internet Explorer or even Firefox, because in my experience with social media and obviously with Google products, this Google browser works the best, and I have the least amount of issues when I use Google Chrome. So if you are unable to use Chrome throughout some of these exercises and things that we have you doing, the number one thing that you might look at is if you're using Internet Explorer. Internet Explorer might have limited functionality on some tools, so you may have to find a workaround to get around it. You may go ahead and try to download Chrome to your computer. You should be able to just Google Chrome. It's going to go to google.com/Chrome, and if you don't have it on your computer, there should be a preview set up, and you should be able to come up here and download it onto your computer. Of course, if you don't have admin rights to your computer, you may have issues with doing that. If you can't use Chrome, the next best option is Firefox, and you can do everything we're doing here today and throughout this week on Internet Explorer. You just might have to find a few workarounds to do it. That said, we're going to go into gmail.com. Once I pop into gmail.com, it says I need to either sign in or create an account. If you have not already created an account, you're going to hit this blue button, and all of this information right here, you need to fill it in. I'm not going to fill this in right now because we already have an account set up, but I'll touch on a couple points here. You can have your first and last name to be whatever you like. If this is your incident email, then you might have it be incident info or something to that effect, and then your username is going to go along with that branding that we just talked about earlier. What is it that you want to have it be? So it's going to be xyzfireinfo@gmail.com or whatever fits your incident. That's what you're going to want to put here. Google's going to let you, if I type in here incident info, let's try to zoom in. It's going to tell me that somebody has already used that username. So before you get too far along in the planning process as to what you want to use as your branding, as your name, try a couple options to see if somebody has already taken it. It's possible that someone already has, so you might have to do incident info 1. Somebody's already taken that. So information. How about there? So, I mean, that's a very long username. I wouldn't recommend doing that, but for the purpose of this training, find your username, make it work, and move on. Passwords. You're going to find throughout this training that you're going to set up a number of different accounts. You're going to at least bare minimum need a Google account, a Twitter account, and a Facebook account. Each one of those is going to require their own separate password. So you want to make sure that you have a password management system, whether that's just writing it down on a piece of paper or a more sophisticated system. Just make sure that you know what your passwords are so that you can refer back to them. Fill out all this basic information, and hit the next step, and you'll be on your way to creating a Google account. I already have my Google account, so I'm going to go ahead and log in. For this training this week, we're using SMEMtraining15@gmail.com. I have already had my password system in place, so I'm going to type that in. And here you go, I'm already in. As you can see, I'm not going to spend too much time in here because it's fairly simple. It's just like any other email client that you have. You have your inbox, you've got your sent mail, your drafts, etc. These are all your different posts. Gmail does default into splitting up your email into a couple different labels. So you got the primary label, social label, and promotions. That can be confusing to some people. If you don't like that setup, then you're going to want to come over here. There's a gearbox up here in the far upper right corner. You hit that, come on down to settings. And within settings, you got a label up here. You can go ahead and edit those labels right through here. Other things that you can do in this piece, you might want to consider forwarding these emails. So you can see right here under forwarding, I have a copy of this, any email that is sent to this account being forwarded to my state email account. What that does is that means if this is an incident email, I don't have to actually come back into this location to actually use and interact with the emails that are coming into me. I can have them coming in here and then bouncing back out to my primary email account. If you're dealing with a number of incidences all at one time, or you have multiple people involved collaborating with you in this email account, that might be a tool. Working with your email forward might be a good tool for you to use. Other than that, there's other settings in here that you can play with, and it's like any other web client. You can have yourself a down here. You can give yourself a picture. Let's talk about that picture. This is a very important. We changed this picture to a logo here, which in this case it's the official fire information logo. If you have seen examples of, sorry, the zooming in isn't working very well here. This is a logo that's used on many different blogs, interagency blogs, when they're running an interagency fire. Your picture says 1,000 words, and this is all part of your branding conversation. The avatar that's on your Twitter account, your Facebook account, your Gmail account, all of that should match if at all possible. You can see up here, that logo shows up here, and this is going to connect with your Google Plus account. We'll get to that a little bit more. That logo should be solid, should be easy to recognize, should be crisp. Underneath here, you can add a signature line in here as well if you like, and you can have your out-of-office email. If this is for an incident, you might add some sort of a standard response regarding basic information about your fire or contact information that you could send as an auto reply to people. Totally how you want to manage things. So that's all we're going to really cover on Gmail. Very simple and very basic interface, but you're going to need that to manage all the rest of your Google accounts. The next place that we're going to go is into Google Drive. Once you set up that Gmail account, all you have to do is go to drive.google.com, hit enter, and I've already set it up. If you have not set up your Google Drive account, you're going to be met with a couple screens that you have to click through to get to this point here. But once you get in here, it's very similar to any sort of, if you had a folder on your computer, just like this, you got folders here, and you have inside folders, you've got documents. Well, it's the same exact thing with Google Drive. You got folders and you have documents. Inside this My Drive folder, I have a folder called SMEM Training. This is a folder which, by the way, is available to you publicly, and inside this folder, we have a number of different tools and documents that you can use as part of this class. You can access this by going to, let me pull up the other document that we had up earlier. If you go to http://bit.ly/SMEMtraining15, you will be able to access this folder here, everything that's in here. So each one of these represents a different document. And you can see under here, there's a blue box Here's a blue box with lines. This is a Google document, which is similar to a Microsoft Word document. This is green here. It's got green lines. That is a Google spreadsheet, which would be similar to a Microsoft Excel document. This is got a kind of an orangish yellowish square with a white dot in it, and that represents a Google Sheet or PowerPoint presentation. All of that can be accessed. If you wanted to create a new document, you simply come over to New, and you create a new Google Doc by simply clicking here, New Sheet, New Slide. So let's, for purposes of demonstration, create a new document. It's going to match the sharing settings with the folder it's being loaded in, and right now, this folder is being shared publicly. I don't want to do that. I want to make my own document, so I'm going to go back to my drive, make sure I'm in my original drive folder. Now I'm going to hit New, hit Google Docs. Now I have a brand new document that I can work with. Let's zoom in so you can see a little better. Right under here, I click on Untitled Document, and I can name this my SMEM Training 15 Notes. You might be asking yourself, what is SMEM? I'm not sure we've explained it up to this point. SMEM stands for Social Media for Emergency Management. Training Notes is what we're going to call this. So now that title changes up here. And I can start typing in here whatever I need to type. Notice you have a share option up here in the corner. This is very important. Right now it says it's private only to me. I can change that. I can come up here and I can add individual email addresses. So such as, I'm going to add my state email. How about my personal email? These are all Gmail accounts. So if you know the Gmail, you can just start typing them in here, and you can give these accounts permissions here. They can edit those permissions to say that these people can edit this document, they can comment on it, or they can just view on it. Then you can say, well, down here you have a note section, you can say, you have access to this document. If you do that and hit save, what's going to happen is you're going to send an email to these people saying, you now have access to this document to collaborate on it. You can also come on here, there's a small word here that says advanced. Click advanced, and then you can do a couple more things. So right now it says private only, I can have access. I can change that, and now I can do a little bit more. I can make this public on the web so anybody can access it. I can make it so anyone with the link can access it. In this case, technically it is publicly on the web, but the link is fairly complicated, so the odds of somebody guessing that link is going to be difficult, and they're not going to be able to find it through a search engine. Or you could say off, it's only available to me and those specific people I give it access to. For the sake of this purpose, I'm just going to make it public. Again, if it's public on the web, I can change it to be public so that they can view it only, comment it on it, or edit it. So you have quite a few options as to how you want to share this. I'll make it so that they can edit it. And I'll say send. So now you can see this is public on the web, and these three people also have direct access. That's how you share. That's the fundamentals of sharing any Google document, whether it's a Google Doc, a Google Sheet, or a Google slideshow, or anything else. This up here is a link that you can copy over and then share with other people directly. So if I come up here to a new tab and I paste this link in here, it's going to go straight to that document. And because I selected the settings on here as public on the web, you don't even have to be logged in to a Gmail account to see this. So you could share this document with people who do not have Gmail accounts and share it. Notice now you see my cursor, I'm typing over here. There's a green cursor that's over here. That's representing the fact that I have this document open in 2 locations. I'm doing that so you can see if I was person A typing over here, person B's cursor is over here, and you can be collaborating and working on the same document all at the same time. So we're going to close those out. As part of our demonstration and our practice, when you get to that portion, we're going to want you to create your own Google document. We're going to want you to share this document, get to the point where you find this link up here, and I want you to copy that link. Keep that link saved, and I'm going to have you come over to this shared Google Drive folder. Again, you get to this Drive folder by going to http backslash or semicolon backslash bit.ly/SMEMtraining15. Inside this folder, there is going to be a document, a spreadsheet called rosters and links. There it is right there. I want you to open that document. You're going to see that throughout this, we've had a lot of people already contribute some information in here. What I want you to do is practice actually inputting data into this. All you're going to do is you're going to come down here. You're going to enter your name, your Gmail account. It's very important that you enter your Gmail account so that we can use your get that email account and collaborate with you. If you give me an agency email account that's not a Gmail account, I can't share documents and stuff with you except for under public, if it's public. Give us your agency, give us your Twitter account, and I'm going to have you come over here, and this is where I want you to paste that link to your document. You see some other people have already done that above you. These are all the documents that they created as part of this training. So I want you to come in here, give us your name and information, and then paste that link to your Google Doc right here. Now we're going to jump back and continue training. I just want to show you a couple more things. Inside spreadsheets, there's really not much different. I'll just go ahead and open up this one again. This is really not very much different than an Excel spreadsheet. So if you have familiarity with an Excel spreadsheet, you're good to go. Again, you've got that sharing option right up here where you can share just like we did with the Google Doc. You have your file menu, your edit menu, all this right up here, very similar to an Excel spreadsheet. There are going to be some differences. There's going to be some functionality that may not be there, but for the most part, you're going to have items there. I'll show you one trick here. If you're collaborating with people, you can set up a notification rule that says, I've made one right here. If any changes are ever made to this document, it's going to send me an email right away. That kind of helps you know if someone else is in your document working on it. Just a quick little trick that you can use. So get in here, play with it. The only way that you're going to ever learn is to practice. One of the things that you can do is when a folder is shared with you, see how I have this folder over here? It's SMEM training. Well, that folder is not actually owned by me. If I click on it and highlight it over here, I should be able to get some information on it. It's not one. There we go. That's the one I want. View details. Notice that this little folder here, it's got a little person icon in here. That means that it's being shared. So I want to see details on here. I can see that this is actually owned by Chris Erickson. This isn't owned by me. So how did this folder get into my drive? This is my drive. How it got here is it was in your shared folder, shared with me. This is really important to remember because if people are collaborating with you, they're going to share documents with you and they're going to land in your shared with me folder first. So you can see here, this is where that folder landed. You can take it out of this folder, or actually not out, but you can copy it by simply dragging it and bringing it over to my drive. I'm not going to do that right now because it's going to make a double copy, but you simply come over here, drag it, and put it into your drive. That way, you now have it right here. It's just a lot easier for you to access. We're showing that to you because a lot of people forget how to find a document once it's been shared with them. You go to your shared with me folder, bring it up, bring it over here. Okay? So I want you to practice that. If you have a document that's shared with you, I want you to bring that folder over. If over the next day or so, if you actually come in here and give us your Gmail account, we will try to remember to come in here and we will share that Google folder with you directly so that you can have that folder in your shared drive and then you can practice bringing it over. Okay, so we've looked at how we share the content and how we collaborate on it. I'll show you another quick trick here. Instead of actually opening the document, you can do a lot of that sharing just from right here. So right now I've got this SMEM training folder highlighted. If I blow it up a little bit, right from here I can get the link. I can edit the sharing settings. I can edit sharing settings by clicking on the person. I can delete this document or this folder, and I can do other items here. I can download it to my computer. I can make it a favorite. That's a good tool if you've got a lot of documents in your Google Drive. Add it to your favorites folder, and then when you come over here to start, it'll be right there. So that's a good way to highlight things to find them. So that's a really, really brief tour of Google Drive. And you just got to get in there and play with it, and it's an excellent tool to collaborate with. We're going to now jump over to Google Plus very briefly. To do that, you're going to go to plus.google.com. Now, let's say you're not going to remember drive.google.com, you're not going to remember plus.google.com, you just want to click on something. Well, guess what? Good news, you can do that. Right over here on the upper right, there's these little dots over here, as long as you're signed into your Google account. And this may be a Chrome specific thing. You may have issues doing this on Internet Explorer or Firefox. But if you click right over here, notice that you have all of these apps showing up right here. So right now I can jump to Gmail, jump to Drive, other apps are here. And it's not giving me, there we go, the slider here. If I slide on down, I have Blogger, Google Docs, other options that you can choose. We'll get to Blogger a little later, but that's there. Now, Google Plus is right here. So we're going to click right there. Again, I said plus.google.com. Guess where it takes me? Plus.google.com. We're not going to spend a lot of time here, but this is a platform which you can use to share information. From right here, just like you would on Facebook or Twitter, you can have a post, create a post and share information. You can share this either publicly or to specific circles. A circle is essentially a group of your friends that you are talking with and communicating with. You can set those up as you will. Let's show what it looks like if you come in here and copy over a link into Google+. See how it gives you a nice little preview? It makes a nice little preview for you, and you can write additional information about your post right here and then send it off and hit send. You can add hashtags in here. Hashtags work on Google+. So you can post to your heart's content here. You can post photos and videos. You can manage your circles right on this side here. And you can join a Hangout. That's what we want to demonstrate next. We're really quickly breezing over all of this. There's a lot of things that you can do with a lot of functionalities, but I want to highlight specifically Hangouts because it's a fairly powerful tool. And within Hangouts, I can start a video Hangout with individual people right here. If I did that, it would just be between me and whoever I'm talking with. So I'm going to go ahead and close this out. This is the basic interface for a Hangout. Right up here, there's a person icon with a plus sign, and I click on that and I can invite people to this Hangout. Okay, pretty simple stuff. I'm not going to invite anybody right now, but I can invite quite a few people. I'm not sure what the max is. It may be 10 to 15, so you can get away with quite a few. You can do this Hangout either through, like right now, I'm prepared to do a video chat. This could also be through text, or just through phone. You don't have to do video. From here, if you see up here, there's a little screen over here. I can share my screen with people directly. I can take photos. I can do a number of different things. So play with these options, and you can use Google Hangouts to do a lot of fancy things. While we're on that subject, there's another thing that you can do with Google Hangouts. It's called a Hangout on Air. If you do a Hangout on Air, we're not actually going to do one of these live, but you can give it a name. Give it a description. And I can start this now. I'll go ahead and hit share. It's going to give me what looks like a YouTube page, and it looks like that because when I hit start here, it gives me a chance to invite some more people. I'm not going to invite anybody right now. If I did invite people, they would show up down here under the U, and you would see them stacking up in here. But the neat thing about doing this Google Hangout on Air is I can come over here to this link, and now I can send people who want to just watch this Hangout to this link. And then I can also send them directly to a YouTube page where they can watch what we're doing live. So if I'm having a conversation with 2 or 3 other people, that all can be happening while somebody else watches live. So this is a tool that can be used to broadcast meetings, to broadcast all sorts of different things. Okay? What else that you can do with that? I'm going ahead and close it off because it's not broadcasting very well. You can also, when that is done, when the recording is done, you press stop. It's going to now go to a YouTube page where you can then watch that recording right away. So play with Google Hangouts, play with Google Hangouts on Air for some additional functionality. Last thing I want to touch on is Google Voice. We're not going to go into detail on that at all. I really just want to give you where to start out. It's going to be google.com/voice. You type that in. If you've never set up a Google Voice account, it's going to ask you to proceed. And so you're going to have to follow along with these terms and conditions, and you're going to have the option of either creating a new phone number or using an existing phone number that you have. And then Google can use that information, and you can now use that number for a number of different things. You can use the number to call 4 or 5 different phones. You can have it call your work phone and your personal phone at the same time, and whichever one you pick up first works. It works really well in a joint information center where you have 5 or 6 people answering phones, but you only want one phone number for the public to call. You can have it be recording your voicemails for you or do other things. It's a nice tool that you can use if it works for your setup. So just keep that in mind. So with that, we have covered Google Drive, Google Gmail. We've covered Hangouts very briefly at Google+, as well as Voice. I just want to, before I close this out, make sure that you know what to do if you want to exercise this. If you go back into your Google Drive folder, navigate to that SMEM training shared folder that we gave you. There is a document called Exercise Checklist. If you open up that exercise checklist, you can see everything that we want you to do. So we want you to set up a Gmail account. We want you to set up your Drive. We want you to navigate to this folder. We want you to try moving that folder over to your Drive. Now keep in mind, if we have not sent you an email saying that you're sharing this with you, it's not going to be in your Drive. So if you're doing this tonight and we haven't caught up with you and shared that email with you, that's not going to happen. So you may not be able to practice that piece of this. I want you to access the SMEM training roster and tools document. That was this document here. Again, it's in that shared folder. Give us your basic information, your name, your Gmail, your agency, your Twitter handle. Go ahead and then, and it's listed down in here, I want you to create a new document. After you've created that new document, I want you to share it with smemtraining15@gmail.com. I want you to look at the privacy sharing options and find the link, which I showed you how to do. You come over here. I'll get out of this and so I can show you how to do it again. You hit share, get that shareable link. It's right here. You copy that link over, come back over to the roster and paste it in to this the Google spreadsheet. If you haven't set up your Google Plus profile, this is your opportunity to do that, as well as to participate in a Hangout, and you may even want to consider setting up a Google Voice account. Those are the things that we would ask you to go ahead and start to do as part of the practice for this training. With that, we will go ahead and wrap up this training on Google products.